Welcome, dear listeners. Imagine venturing deep into the wilderness, expecting nothing more than a peaceful escape into nature, only to stumble upon something you were never meant to see. A rare, almost unnatural creature, its colors defying the rules of camouflage, its presence a mystery. But what happens when curiosity takes over and leads you somewhere far more dangerous than you could have ever imagined? Tonight, we follow Peter, a traveler whose innocent discovery turns into a chilling encounter with secrecy, suspicion, and a hidden truth buried deep within the forest. Stay with me as we unravel this eerie tale. When Peter first encountered this snake, he knew that he had found something special, but his curiosity quickly got the better of him. When Peter got too close to the snake, he was bitten by it, but that seemed to be none of the concern of the ranger that was with him. The only thing that seemed to matter to him was that Peter was never supposed to see this snake in the first place. Peter was in a complete state of panic. He had no idea where the ranger was bringing him, and his hand was still bleeding profusely. He had no idea if the snake was poisonous or not. All he knew was that he needed to go to the hospital, but he was pretty sure that that was not where the ranger was heading. The ranger had not spoken a word to him after he told Peter that he was never supposed to see the snake. By the way the ranger pulled him into his truck afterward, Peter knew he was in trouble, but he could barely think about that now due to the pain of the snake bite. Peter was crying, calling out for help, but when the ranger finally reached his destination, Peter quickly fell completely silent again. But what was the explanation for the strange-looking snake? Why was Peter never supposed to see it, and where had the ranger taken him? Even though Peter was very aware of this fact, he was not really keeping an eye out for snakes around him. He was traveling through the forest, but that was not supposed to be normal snake territory. It was way too cold here for them. But again, this was obviously not any other snake. Luckily for Peter, even though he was paying close attention, this snake was almost impossible to miss. Nearly everything around him was green and brown, which would normally be perfect camouflage for a snake, but the animal was actually strangely brightly colored. Peter did not know much about snakes, but he remembered that it was very rare for animals to have these kinds of color patterns, as it took away their ability to hide. The only kind of animal that still looks like this is normally very poisonous, and they use the colors as a warning. The snake itself did not seem to have much interest in moving. It had crawled out from its cover and had just nestled itself right in the path that Peter intended to take. Not wanting to take any risk, Peter decided to turn around and head back to his hotel, but he was anything but done with this animal. On his way back to the town, Peter decided to make a post about the snake on his social media. He did not expect anybody to know anything about it, but just thought of it as a bit of fun. He knew that his ex-girlfriend loved animals, so maybe he could get her attention back by posting the picture. He also shared the name of the forest where he had encountered it, but this was precisely what made the post stand out to people outside of his followers, and these people were not happy with what they saw. Peter had no time to really question it or re-upload the post, as he was suddenly called by an unknown local number. Strange, as he knew nobody here and had only arrived 2 days ago. Who could have his number? The voice on the other end of the line sounded deep and stern. He told Peter that he was calling on behalf of the local wildlife protection authorities and that they had to talk to him. Peter was startled by the situation that was happening now, and he was also wondering how this man was able to get his phone number. The situation was getting weirder each minute. They had seen the picture he had posted of the strange snake and wanted to ask him a couple of questions about it. Peter was confused, but the man made it clear that he did not have much of a choice. Peter was supposed to wait at the entrance to the forest, where a ranger would meet up with him. Peter was then supposed to take the ranger to the exact spot where he encountered the snake. He fully cooperated with the ranger, as Peter could already hear from the voice that he couldn't mess with this ranger. Peter was nervous as he made his way over to the forest. He had no idea the trouble he was in, but he could already feel like something was not right here. Peter just had a nasty gut feeling that this might not end well for him. The ranger arrived just minutes after Peter did and did not even greet him or introduce himself. He just looked him straight in the eye and told Peter to start walking. Peter felt fairly pressured by the ranger and didn't dare to argue with him. Maybe a bit foolishly, Peter decided to get close to the snake to get a good look at the animal. Seeing as the snake was still in the same spot, he feared that it might have died there. But that was not the case at all, as out of practically nowhere, the snake lashed out at him. It all went so quickly that Peter barely had time to process what happened. He felt a stinging pain in his hand and slowly started seeing blood pour out of it. He quickly started getting lightheaded as he turned back to the very angry-looking ranger. This entire situation didn't look good for Peter. He was short of breath and had intense pain in his arm, but it seemed like the ranger didn't care about this. Peter begged to be taken to the hospital, but the ranger simply didn't care. As Peter and the ranger walked on to a secret place, Peter felt worse and worse. He really needed to go to a hospital because he felt like he was dying. He begged the ranger again to go to the hospital, but the ranger said, "We're almost there." But where were they? They were in the middle of the forest. After what felt like forever, but was probably only 10 minutes, they arrived at a big and modern-looking building hidden deep in the forest. Peter was sure that this place was not on the map. It did look like maybe people there could help Peter. The ranger immediately took Peter to another man who was sitting outside on his laptop. Peter wanted to go outside to get some medical help, but he didn't have a choice, as he was put at the table in front of the man. Peter could barely understand the man, let alone answer properly all the questions he was asking. Peter really needed medical help, and his body gave up. He passed out. He was barely alive. Suddenly, Peter woke up in a bed in a room that looked like a hospital. He felt a lot better, so he seriously thought he might have dreamed everything about the ranger taking him to a secret hidden place. However, this turned out not to be the case. Peter was handcuffed to the bed, and the joy of feeling better immediately turned to sheer panic. Why was he handcuffed? Where was he? So many questions went through his head, but Peter knew that he had to get out of there fast. The stranger started questioning Peter right away about how he got into that forest, where he lived specifically, and whether or not he had family. The ranger's questions initially struck Peter as absurd, but when he added, "We can't let you go," Peter realized why he was asking those kinds of questions. After the unpleasant conversation with the ranger, he left the room. Peter knew right away that he had to get out of there as soon as possible if he wanted to stay alive or go back to his normal life. He looked around and saw a pair of tweezers in a drawer on the nightstand. This was the ideal way to unlock the handcuffs.